Hi, this is Vera from Veriterra Lab. In this video, let's talk about benefits of compost applications. So I feel more qualified to talk about benefits for soil and plants. So I'm going to cover these topics and also touch topic of carbon sequestration. And before I start, I want to make a little note that biological quality of compost is very important, and the most information I will be covering in this video will be related to high quality, rich living compost. So the main idea that I want to convey in this video is that biologically complete compost that has all functional groups of microbes serves as an inoculant of those microbes for degraded soils that lack these microbes due to destructive agricultural practices or other reasons. And restoring these microbes to soils restores soil ecological functions and plant microbe interactions. So basically, benefits that I will be talking about are functions of those microbes that they perform in soil, around and inside plant roots and on plant surfaces. So let's go through these functions or benefits of the soil food web. When we apply biological compost or things like compost extract and we follow regenerative practices, it will restore the soil food web in soil. And we will get the benefits like plant available nutrients, the full range of nutrients available to plants at rates they require, also nutrient retention or prevention of runoff and leaching, well-structured soil, protection from diseases and pests, reduced weed pressure, and degradation of pollutants and carbon sequestration. So first, nutrients. There are many ways that microbes provide nutrients to plants. I want to cover one of them called nutrient cycling or the poop loop. So when we add good compost to degraded soils, we add a diversity of bacteria and fungi, and they start decomposing soil organic matter and also mining nutrients from mineral particles like clays. And they start to grow and accumulating nutrients in their bodies. In the presence of microbes, plants start releasing sugary exudates from their roots to attract and grow certain species of bacteria and fungi that they like in their root zone. This massive amount of bacteria and fungi attracts their predators like protozoa and nematodes, which also can be added through compost application if they are lacking in soil. So predators start happily consuming bacteria and fungi and pooping out excessive nutrients right in the root zone. And now plant can take up those nutrients. This is one of the reasons why we see increase in plant yields after biological compost applications, as compared to poor compost or no compost at all. It's like we kickstart or boost these plant microbe interactions, and this results in more nutrients for plants. And it's not like we feed plants with nutrients from compost, like we feed them with inorganic fertilizers. It's more like microbes unlock nutrients that are present in soil and also in compost and make them available to plants. The next is nutrient retention or preventing runoff and leaching. Nutrient retention is related to the fact that bacteria and fungi produce glues, and they glue themselves to soil organic matter and minerals, basically to their food sources, and they don't get washed away. So they accumulate and don't leach nutrients that will be later slowly provided to plants, as opposed to poor soils where nutrients are leaching down to soil profile, or inorganic fertilizers that leach and they pollute soil and water. Fungi are also known specifically for calcium retention. They store calcium oxalate crystals on their surfaces and prevent it from leaching down and becoming unavailable for plants. So biological compost application can really boost calcium in your soil, and it's a real long-lasting solution as opposed to a quick fix like application of lime. So next is well-structured soil. Soil structure is an arrangement of aggregates and pore spaces, not to be confused with soil texture, which is a proportion of sand, silt, and clay in your soil. Soil structure is created by the soil food web organisms. Bacteria, they glue together organic matter and minerals, creating microaggregates, and then fungi tangle together those microaggregates into bigger aggregates, which creates pore spaces. Protozoa, nematodes, and larger organisms rearrange those aggregates in soil, and this creates diversity of pore sizes and habitats. This porous structure, together with plants, protects soil from wind erosion, also allows water to infiltrate normally, preventing flooding, and water can be held longer in pores and inside aggregates, so that plants can use it later in dry season. Also, in well-structured soil, roots can grow deeper without competing with neighboring plants. Poor bacterial-dominated soils usually lack structure and they are prone to compaction and erosion. Protection from pests and diseases mostly comes from well-structured soil. Plant-friendly microbes, just like plant roots, can only function in presence of oxygen. And they build this structure to create this rich oxygen environment. In contrast, disease-causing organisms or microbes that can harm plants indirectly by producing acids or other compounds, they prefer low oxygen conditions and they cannot survive and harm plants in well-structured soil. There are also plant-friendly microbes that produce substances toxic for plant pests like caterpillars or disease-causing fungi, and some of them just literally consume pathogens. Overall, growing healthy soil, rich in diverse microbes, plants get all the nutrients they need and they have stronger immune system and they photosynthesize better. As a result, higher sugar content in their tissues protect them from many insect pests that cannot tolerate this high concentration. Also, sufficient amount of zinc in plants is toxic for many fungal pathogens and some insects. In addition, roots and above ground parts of plants growing in healthy soil are covered with beneficial microbes, and this provides protection from pathogens. If plants were growing in poor soils and don't have this protective microbiome, then we can spray them with compost tea to recreate this coverage while we are working on soil health. Degradation of pollutants. Microorganisms can break down some toxic chemicals into less toxic compounds, or they can put them inside aggregates and make them unavailable for plants or available in less concentrations. Also, in poor compacted soils, pH is low and it can cause increase in available iron, manganese, and aluminum, which can be toxic for most plants. And so application of biological compost improves pH and fixes this problem. And the last function is carbon sequestration. As I mentioned before, in the presence of beneficial microbes, plants are photosynthesizing better and they're pumping that sugar, that carbon into the soil to feed microbes and get other nutrients that they need. And then the soil food web takes that carbon, uses it for energy, but also decompose it further and turn it into a stable form. So application of biological compost together with other practices that preserve organic matter and promote microbes can significantly increase carbon sequestration. So as you can see, application of high quality compost can provide plant nutrients, fix soil compaction and erosion, improve plant health, and eliminate the need for inorganic fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, and tillage. Given current prices on chemicals, it gives a huge reduction in costs, even taking into account the transition period from chemicals to biological farming. And it's not only about profit. As you might know, production and use of nitrogen fertilizers create huge amount of greenhouse gases, and in reality, large amount of inorganic fertilizers are not become available to plants. They mostly leach and contaminate everything downstream. Pesticides and herbicides are simply poisonous and cancerogenic for farm workers, people living nearby, people consuming sprayed produce for environment and wildlife, and they don't actually solve the problem of pests and diseases. Unfortunately, this is the toxic reality we live in now, and that is why transitioning to biologically focused practices, including production and application of compost, is so important for human health, soil and plant health, wildlife, and climate. So yeah, I hope this was inspirational. I got very excited myself when I put together the content for this video, and I hope this will help us to produce more high quality compost.